Hi there,
Hello.
from riot-torn UK.
Absolutely, yeah. Not riot-torn Faversham.
No,
Looking very unrighty down there.
absolutely, looking very nice. Beautiful day here. Yeah, we're back after a couple of months, and yeah, we're just going to share the tunes that we listened to last night.
Yeah.
And if we could build a tenuous thread between them, then we did. Sometimes we can.
Usually works for about the first half and then
Yeah.
it falls to bits. And stuff.
So, yeah, we started off with a Jan Hammer track. So Jan Hammer famously in Mahavishnu, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Before becoming a very famous film soundtrack composer. Did a couple of albums with this lineup, Stephen Kindler, Fernando Saunders and Tony Smith. And this is sort of super high-end fusion. Violin, bass, synth and drums. And we listened to a track called Magical Dog. And very lively, great range of time signatures, incredible playing and soloing.
Dan Hammer was also in the Funny All Stars, which is quite weird.
That's
it was
right.
the first band he ever came in when he went to the States, I think.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. So I should say I have a box of records. Mark has his whole collection. I just have a box. I did happen to have probably quite a good choice, really.
Very
It was
good choice.
Jean-Luc Ponty from his album Aurora. And it was also a good opportunity to just pay tribute to Tom Fowler, the bass player from Frank Zappa's great 73-74 band, who's on bass on that. But also we've got Daryl Sturmer on guitar, went on to play with Genesis. We've got the wonderful Patrice Rushen on keyboards. And we've got Norman Farrington, who I think had a brief time possibly with Weather Report, I can't remember actually, on drums. So I played the track off that called, can't remember actually, Is Once. And it kind of merged almost seamlessly with Jan Hammer.
Beautiful mix. Which was kind of this was just the last record that I bought, which was I bought it day before yesterday down Les's Hatters Hall in Faversham. This is a late CTI record. Terrible cover actually. The quality control had gone way down by the time we got to 1980. Fuse One. It's a classic under £5 bargain bin find, I think.
Definitely.
But with an incredible lineup of musicians, as you can see: Stanley Clarke, Larry Coryell, Joe Farrell, John McLaughlin, Ronnie Foster, Ndugu, Lenny White and Tony Williams.
Not all at the same time.
Not all at the same time, and maybe don't quite live up to their individual brilliance. But we listened to the track called Grand Prix, which is written by the guitarist Ronnie Foster.
Very popular in Japan. Played a few CDs, so we're hoping not going to get cancelled. But actually, we are going to get too much glare, actually. So I played a fairly recent, although it's not that recent, from 2010, Stanley Clarke album with the great Ronald Brunner Jr., who's Thundercat's brother on drums on there, and played a kind of updated version of the song No Mystery as well. They're kind of okay. The later, I got this for a very, very small amount of money, but they're okay actually. The later Stanley Clarke albums, he's still around and still playing really well actually. That's the main thing.
And the connection was that Stanley had been playing on Fuse One.
Yeah, of course.
So did a rather nice piccolo bass solo. Okay, we'd had enough fusion by this stage. And I have a big shout out to Lawrence Mellowman and his exceptional VC channel, where he's always digging and discovering records that are of great interest to me anyway. And his latest video shared this album, A Very Gentle Soul by Gloria Lynn. So you can see not the finest copy here, but I did get it for about £2.50. So I'm not complaining. Sounds fantastic. Jerry Butler production. Just an incredibly sort of airy, spacious.
Yeah, very kind of ambient sounding.
Yeah, really lovely. Some great guitar playing. Sort of kind of a real kind of jazzy vibe underpinning it. And particularly the track, A Very Gentle Sound, which I heartily recommend. Particularly if you're in the UK about to experience a mini heatwave. A great balm to keep you cool.
Very many. He went a day and a half.
Yeah, well, that's the heat wave for us, isn't it?
This is a record I think I might have shown before on the videos, but it's something I nearly sold because I confused it. There's another Pharoah Sanders album with Norman Connors, which is a live album, which is absolutely terrible, but this one's actually really, really good. And I played the track As You Are, which has wonderful vocals from Phyllis Hyman. In fact, you wouldn't even really know it was a Pharaoh track until he plays a solo towards the end of it. But I've always loved Phyllis Hyman's voice. Absolutely fantastic. Anyway, so this is another thing that's very, very easy to find, pick up for very little money, I think.
Yeah,
So,
and I was actually confused thinking that this was Pharaoh was doing a dental hygiene ad here on the front cover.
I know we don't know. If anyone knows what Pharaoh's doing on the front, let us know.
Featured Phyllis Hyman.
Yeah.
Here she is. My one and only Phyllis Hyman album from mid-80s, I think same 1986. Very much of that time in terms of its sound, but a wonderful cover version of the Bobby Caldwell tune, What You Won't Do for Love. And she does have an incredible vocal, incredible voice.
And what happened to be the same year. I didn't actually realise this when I played it. This is something I showed on Instagram, and Paul from New Zealand, I know you like this record as well. This is a kind of, again, you can pick this up for a couple of dollars or a couple of pounds anyway. This is Bobby Womack from his Woe Magic album, which was, I think, 2 albums after the 2 Poet records, which are much better known. Great, and doesn't sound too much like an 80s record at all, actually, produced by Chips Moman, who ran American studios in Memphis, and produced actually the very first 2 Bobby Womack albums as well. I played the track off this called I Got to Love Nobody Else. Very good, really good. There's 2 absolutely terrible tracks on it, which you need to avoid, like The Plague, which are really overdone 80s production. But the whole record's got some great songs, and Bobby never disappoints, really.
He never does. And the Jerry Butler connection and the great Soul Voice connection came through here, although we've shot back to 1968 for this reissue that came out a couple of years ago of The Iceman Cometh, Jerry Butler. And we listened to a fantastic track. I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was How Can I Get in Touch with You? But yeah, highly recommend this album and this particular pressing, which seemed to really draw out the stereo. I thought fantastically.
He's quite a unique figure, I think, Jerry Butler. He's not like a lot of other kind of singers from around that time. Then staying a bit...
Spinning Greek shout
Spinning
out.
Greek. Yeah, Stavros Spinning Greek. If you're there, Stavros,
We love you.
very, very well. We miss you as well.
Yeah, we do.
This was something that Stavros sent in an amazing kind of VCLC package a few years ago, and I played the track Feeling All Right, because I know it's one of Mark's favourite tracks of there as well, and this is Isaac Hayes live at the Sahara Hotel, which I think was a kind of casino, I think he was playing at this point. Well, but it's a bit of a classic live album, this one.
Which we seamlessly went to another Isaac Hayes live album, although this one actually didn't feature Isaac singing. It was his orchestration, an album with Dionne Warwick, of which I have 2 copies, the first of which has Bernard Manning's all-time party hits by mistake, but we fortunately didn't listen to that. We listened to, what was it? What did we listen to?
Listen to the Earthman and Fire.
The Earthman and Fire tune, which I suddenly can't remember what it is. Can't Hide Love. That's another signature tune for me. I love that tune.
Me too.
Skip Scarborough. Great version, which sort of segues a little bit into Donna Summer's I Feel Love, both the beginning and end.
Wonderful. I mean, just effortless voice she had as well. Don't know quite what the connection with this one, actually. We started to break down.
Started psyching out.
And Skies, which is Skies the Limit Temptations album, usually always play Smiling Faces off here, because it's an absolute classic version of it. But this time played Love Can Be Anything, which is a very long track, which goes on and on and on. And there's about 7 different guitar solos on it. And kind of, it's just a real kind of... I remember playing it once at a party in Scotland outside, and everyone went completely insane dancing to it. Basically, it doesn't really feel like any other track they've ever done, I don't think, anyway. Although it starts off like a typical Motown Temptations song, but then it goes on for about 5 minutes longer than you think it's going to go on.
It's great.
Yeah.
But it definitely had the psychedelic soul vibe strong.
Norman Whitfield vibe. Very strong.
And John had shared a article in Mojo magazine about the 10 best man albums, and if you're a regular viewer, you'll know John and I are quite big fans. And it got me listening. I think this was their number 1 album that they suggested, which was Man live at the Paget Rooms in Penarth, so in Wales. the kind of gems of man here, Deke, Leonard, and Mickey Jones, alongside Terry Williams and Martin Ace, and an album, a whole side of an album dedicated to a jewelry shop, H. Samuel, I believe. Yeah, which was just a live jam, but very experimental, very. Yeah, just completely unique, I think, and also a very long track. But we really enjoyed that. And it fitted well, quite actually, after Temptations.
I just realised halfway through that track that songs you heard a lot when you were a teenager, you can remember every single note of them. And I could remember listening through that. I could remember every kind of little drum fill, every guitar bit. I could remember everything. It was fantastic, actually. Paying tribute to John Mayall, the classic blues band leader and harmonica player and organ player. Played a track off my favourite of his albums, actually. As you probably noticed from previous sessions, I'm not a massive Eric Clapton and co fan, but I do love Mick Taylor's guitar playing.
So do I.
And on this one, he plays fantastic. I played the track Fly Tomorrow, which is, and this whole album really, if you like Mick Taylor's playing, it's absolutely great. Very unusual sounding, complete departure really with his earlier records, much more kind of psychedelic, I guess, as well, as you can tell by the cover. And this was from a trip to Laurel Canyon, but very soon after he went to the States permanently, he actually moved over there as well.
Yeah. This completed, I think, our psychedelic phase. This is an album that was very meaningful to me when I was a young lad. Robin Trow's Bridge of Sighs, which I also understand was very big in the States. We listened to the title track, which actually doesn't have a guitar solo at all. It just has an amazing guitar sound.
Huge riff.
An incredible riff. And a great trio, Reg Isidore drums and James Dewar on the bass. And wonderful sound, which I noticed Jeff Emmerich, who was the Beatles engineer, was the engineer on this.
Is Reg Isidore in relation to Conrad?
Yes, I think so.
Oh, really? Okay. Then we had a break and we restarted with a completely different kind of vibe going on here. This is a recent release by a band called SML, Small, Medium, Large, which, with the attraction for me, it featured Anna Butters, the bass player from the Tennis Academy Jeff Parker record on bass, Jeremy Chu on keyboards and sampling, Josh Johnson on saxophone as well from the Michelle album and others as well. And just a great, really interesting. Doesn't sound recorded live at the Enfield Tennis Academy in Los Angeles, but it doesn't sound like it at all. Very kind of, don't know how to describe it really. I mean, it's kind of electronic. Some tracks almost have an Afrobeat kind of feel to them as well, actually. A really interesting album, definitely worth picking up. Actually,
yeah,
got a bit of an album of the year feel about it already. Played the track History of Communication off there,
and not a million miles away from that vibe of musicians, although. This is features Jacob Mann, who has appeared regularly in other sharings that we've done. This is a new band called Cat Pack, and it's 3 people: Jacob Mann, Amber Navran, and Philip Baudreau. This is definitely a more commercial sound than the previous album, but equally interesting sonically. And we listened to a great track called Midnight, which I highly recommend. Yeah, both those albums.
We saw albums. Jacob Mann last year, didn't we?
We did.
Sam Wilkes.
Indeed.
Just in the duo, and they're fantastic. The bass player, fantastic. Then we moved on to Son of Velvet Rat, which has got absolutely nothing to do with the previous 2 albums at all. Actually. I think we were starting to break down the mix by this point. This is an album called Dorado. It's not the most recent one, but it's produced by Joe Henry, who I'm a big fan of. And yeah, it's two Austrians who moved to near Joshua Tree in the States and started becoming kind of, I suppose, kind of Americana musicians, and really two very nice people I met when they were much, much younger, actually, weirdly, and played the track off this one, which is called Blood Red Shoes, which also features Victoria Williams on vocals. But it's a typical kind of Joe Henry production, kind of very quite sparse, but then you get all these weird, interesting touches on it all the way through. Yeah, nice record, nice package as well.
Vague connection, I guess, with the sort of Americana vibe was the Little Feat album, who I've kind of got into much later in the day. John knows them very, very well. We listened to an Alan Toussaint penned tune called On Your Way Down, which I just thought was just kind of effortless playing, and I just loved the sound of Lowell George's guitar on this.
Great album.
Yeah.
really another classic band, but not probably known as a classic record so much, is Sudi Dan, and picked up the vinyl reissue of this, which actually sounds very, very different to the CD.
So much better.
And I think the rumor is that there was an analog kind of copy of the original record, which this was cut from. And I have to say, it sounds much, much warmer and very, very different to the original release. And played the great tune Negative Girl, which is just a wonderful kind of late CD. And this is actually one of my favourite of their more recent albums. Didn't get a lot of did very well sales-wise, but didn't get a lot of critical attention at the time. And I think it's a great album, actually. And this is really good version. It's getting pricey now, I think.
And I'm feeling so gutted because I actually got it for John on Record Store Day down here. And there was 2 copies and I got something else instead. Anyway, there you go.
It was a Taylor Swift album, wasn't it?
I played a Lewis Cole track called Let It Happen, and Lewis has just released an incredible album featuring the Metropole Orchestra. So he's orchestrated mostly older tracks, but sounding completely different. And I've just heard he's not very well.
Yeah, it's a worry. I didn't know that.
I'm a great fan of. I really think he's one of the most interesting, innovative musicians around. And if you haven't checked him out, do check him out. But do listen to the new release that's just come out. You can stream it. I think it's coming out in physical format as well.
Yeah.
And Get Better Soon, Lewis.
And Canted Roy Soaring, which does sound like a worry
Yeah.
as well. That album, not that track, but it features Kurt Rosenwinkel, guitarist, who's somebody who I've just been really listening to a lot again recently. And this was a classic album, actually, The Next Step. And the band, which was formed for this around this time, with Mark Turner on saxophone, Ben Street on bass, and Jeff Ballard on drums, reformed recently. I did a tour and they're still absolutely on fire. I think this is a very influential album on a whole kind of generation of musicians. I think this is out of order, actually.
It's a great job.
No. Well, anyway, it's highly recommend. Really does need the album produced by Q-Tip has been reissued on vinyl, but this one hasn't yet, and it really does need a vinyl issue, I think.
I played this Joshua Redman, the album Elastic. Basically an amazing trio with Brian Blades just sounding incredible on the drums, I have to say, and Sam Yahel on the organ keyboards. We listened to the second track called Jazz Crimes.
Just great stuff.
Wow, that's a funky...
Another very influential record, actually.
Yeah, amazing.
So much stuff came out in the CD era, which was kind of really important music. Actually.
This has never come out on vinyl.
No, which I really worry about, kind of losing some of this stuff, actually. This did come out on vinyl, but it was so expensive when it sold out. You can get a copy. This is from Sam Amidon's Lily O album, which I think was his third or fourth album from a few years back on None Such. Played the opening track, Walking Boss. Sam on banjo, Bill Frisell on there as well, playing guitar, which is on the whole album. There were wonderful Shazad Ishmaeli playing virtually everything under the sun. Also produced as well by Valgeir Sigurdsson, who's a wonderful producer from Iceland as well. Has a very big sound for an acoustic
Huge
record.
sound. Drum was absolutely enormous, which actually allowed me to drop a hip-hop, the one and only hip-hop tune, which I finally picked up a vinyl version of Craig Mack's Flavor in Your Ear, which is so super minimal, and it has the little Love Supreme interval, basically, is the main hook line, and a great rap. What a great tune. If you don't know it,
There's a slightly bizarre bit. I think when I in my car, I have several old iPods which I plug into my stereo rather than listening to the radio, and that came up on the way down in the car, which is completely weird. So from hip hop to Parliament, which is not a big leap actually in a weird kind of way, but so much hip hop's based on Parliament. Played the track Deep off the Motor Booty Affair, which is just like everything. It's the opposite of minimal actually. Everything but the kitchen sink. Maximal. We got kind of Bernie Morrell and Judy Morrison on keyboards. We've got Bootsy playing electric bass, and we've also got a kind of synth bass. We've got the Horny Horns. We've got huge number of vocalists.
Huge amounts of vocalists all doing really weird
And
things.
just a great track, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, this album is really, I think, underrated in the Parliament. Kind of,
So, a couple of terrible covers coming your way now.
yeah, real stinkers.
Bionic Boogie. Look at that. Absolute class. This is Greg Diamond. Hot Butterfly. It is actually the track that many people better know as Papillon from Shaka Khan and Rufus. Is it Rufus?
No, it's Shaka
Just
from
straight
Naughty, yeah.
From Naughty, yeah. But anyway, this version, actually a great version, has Luther Vandross all over it and epic production, but called Hot Butterfly in this particular version.
It's weird, his voice sounds about half an octave lower, doesn't it, on this?
Yeah,
And other things. So this can almost beat you on the cover.
I think it's the other side.
The other
John.
side.
Yeah,
Maserati, who were a band that was, oh, look at his pictures.
Look at that guy.
That hair.
Yeah. That's
Really
what we all
some
need to
serious
aspire towards.
This was a band that actually made Kiss, the Prince song. And Prince gave it to them as a demo, and he really liked what they did with it. So he stripped out quite a lot of it. But the basic track of Kiss is Maserati.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with Prince playing a guitar solo on top of it. This was produced by Brown Mark, who was the bass player from The Revolution, and Bobby Z, who was a drummer from The Revolution. And it's actually quite a good album. It has a particularly great track on it called I Get It's All Over, which is a very kind of narcotic sounding kind of mid-tempo, very slow down track with a fantastic electric acoustic steel guitar solo at the end of it as well, which I think must be Prince, although he's not credited on it as well. Anyway, it's kind of, again, you pick this up for virtually nothing as well. It's definitely worth it for that one track, if not that whole album, actually.
We then went reggae style for a couple of tunes. This is an absolute classic Studio One album, Bob Andy's Songbook, and we listened to the wonderful tune I've Got to Go Back Home, with some beautiful horns, lovely horns on it. Yeah.
So from Bob Andy, we went to Dennis Brown and played Stop the Fussing and Fighting, as it says, but fussing and fighting on here. This is the 12-inch, Mark's got the 7-inch of it as well. And it's just a great, wonderful vocal, I think, from Dennis Brown, one of his best, I think, actually.
On the real rock rhythm.
On the real rock rhythm.
Which you will know if you know Willie Williams' Armageddon Town.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, the B-side has Rocking Time, which is using the same rhythm as well, which is even more stripped back. I think it's actually just Dennis singing with bass and drums. I don't think there's anything else on the top. But yeah, it's classic Dennis Brown. What a vocalist he was, though, actually.
Yeah. We had a spot of fella at this stage, well, quite a large spot of fella. It was a whole side of fella's track Mattress, taken from the album Noise for Vendermouth. Just classic fella, and John telling me how he drums like Tony Allen.
Yeah. When I tried, I was a completely failed drummer, but the only drumming I could actually get down, and that's more with chopsticks and my drum kit, was Tony Allen's rhythms for some reason.
It's just very impressive.
So get me to play a straight 4/4 and anything, I couldn't do it at all, actually. So I'm not going to do a performance of that. So from Fella we went to Zappa and played a track with a title I won't read out on YouTube because it'll get us taken down. But I used this alternative title, which was Lava, the album Lava. Really. But it's a track off here with it's a beautiful kind of tune with an amazing synth solo from, who it was?
Eddie Jobson.
Eddie Jobson on it as well. Just really, really beautiful. And this is expanded version of this, absolutely. And the sound on this, the remastering by, I think it was Bernie Krumman, was it?
Absolutely sublime sound.
Absolutely brilliant. Was it Bernie? I'm not sure. It's either Bernie or Chris Bellman. I mean, these. I just noticed the prices start to go up, but these recently reissued, but they all sound amazing.
Absolutely brilliant. And that sort of liquid guitar
Yeah,
from Frank.
yeah.
So Eddie Jobson of Curved Air, Roxy Music, and then UK, you said?
I think he was in the band UK, but I'm not sure.
So last time John and I got together, which is a couple of months back, we normally have a trip out to Les's Hatters Hall, which is a second-hand record shop literally around the corner from the house. And I picked up a live Keith Jarrett in Bremen box set. Pretty cheap, I can't remember, it wasn't very much, was it?
I think it got it for a tenner.
Got it for a tenner, like triple album. And I've just really been enjoying Keith Jarrett. I didn't really know Keith Jarrett very much, so I've been picking up a few albums. I really like this one, which is on ECM, and features the trio with Jack DeJohnette and Gary Peacock on the bass, Jack DeJohnette on drums. Basically, it's almost just one track called Flying, Part 1 and Part 2. We listened to Part 2. I just love the interplay, and Jack DeJohnette's drums were just off the scale, and sounds also amazing. This album.
We just had a classic conversation with Les. Him and me, neither of us can actually remember any names. So we had a classic conversation about blues artists, none of which we could remember the names of any of them. We knew what we were talking about, but we couldn't remember the names of anybody. Anyway, another piano trio. This was the debut, I think, of Jerry Allen, the wonderful piano player who sadly passed away much too young, with Charlie Hayden and Paul Motion on Soul Note, called Etude, and played their version of Lonely Woman, the wonderful classic Ornette Coleman track, where halfway through their recording, Ornette walked into the studio, evidently, which would have put me off completely, I think. But it's interesting, this was named, I think, as being the Tone Poet, Joe Hardy's favourite record. And ever since then, the price of it on Discogs has gone completely through the roof, actually. It's a wonderful, if you can find a copy of it, it's a wonderful record, actually. And she's such a talent, actually, so missed.
And both amazing piano trios, actually, those two.
Yeah.
Okay, and the last tune of the night was a £1 purchase from my holiday in Bridport, The World of Duke, Complete Edition, Volume 16. And we listened to, there's two takes. We listened to the unshoot take of I Got It Bad, which featured beautiful vocals.
Ivy somebody, isn't it?
Sorry?
Is it Ivy somebody?
Well,
Ivy.
somebody or other. Yeah. Anyway, beautiful.
I'll look at it while you
John is going to look at it. Yeah, so there we go. I had a great haul. Ivy Anderson. Brilliant. On that note, we can call it a day.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving us your attention.
Yeah.
Stay well, everybody.
If you're in America, don't forget to vote.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was going to say it's feeling a little bit better here, but it hasn't really been the last week or so. But,
yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, the music is still there, folks.
Keep
listening. Tune into our shows.
Shows are there, as always.
They're there. There's hundreds of them.
Yeah.
Lovely. See you later.
Yeah, take care.